just get the link on the YouTube. So we are going live now. So just bear with me. This should see us here. Share this, copy, paste link, and then put that here. And then I'll put this in our Lions group here. WA Lions. And then I also put that in our Brisbane Lions. Actually, I should put that on the Cheer Squad as well too. You already found that page, aren't you? That Cheer Squad page, aren't you?
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, sweet, perfect. I'm just gonna put that in there as well. Switch over to. It's always annoying. I have to switch over to the other account and then I have to get back into it again. But it's a good group now. We've got about almost 1,000 on there now, which is pretty awesome. And that camp, by the way, was actually pretty good fun. So I enjoyed that last week. That was good too. So,
Yeah, no, it was all right. It was good to meet you. Well, see you again there.
yeah, from
I was
the
happy with how it
after.
all rolled out.
Yeah, and did your school end up having a good time in the end, mate?
Yeah. Well, no one got injured, no one got sick, so yeah, everything was positive from the experience, I think, and I think all the kids, like most of them, hadn't been camping before, so I think overall it was just an eye-opening experience for a few of those kids.
Yeah, and as long as they're enjoying it and having fun, that's the main thing. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah. All right. Now I will just put that in here, and then we can start. All right, perfect. All right, we are here. This is we were normally on the Facebook lives and that, but I got a message during the year that July that they're shutting down Facebook Live, so it's a bit annoying. But we now have changed to a YouTube live. So we were the last week and a bit. We obviously with the cyclone and a few other things that got in the way. So now this is our first episode of our Roaring Lion podcast, which we had last year as well too. It's returned again. Last year we've had players on Ackermanis, we've had Anthony Corey, we've had Cheer Squad members as well too, and today for our first episode we have one of our great fans, Cambo, and he's also works with the AFLW as well too. So plenty to look forward to the chat in. How are you?
Yeah, good, mate. No, thanks for letting me come on board. Yeah, obviously massive Brizzy Lions fan, so always excited to chat anything Lions. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Definitely, and yeah, it's a great community that we got over here, and especially in WA, we've almost got like about 1,000 followers on the Facebook there, Brisbane Lions WA supporters group as well too, and it's great to meet each week. Always seem to get a new one in the group as well too, and caught up with you again. I saw you. We did like a chaplaincy course a few years ago, and then. And now met you again just the other week as well at work. So it's a small world, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I always seem to bump into you, and it's always good because you're always wearing your Brizzy Lions kit, so I can spot you from a mile away and come over and say good day. So it's good.
Yeah, it was a good morning wake up call because I was just setting up my program. Next minute, it's like, oh, go the Lions. I'm like, oh, who's that? I was like, and it was you. So that was always good. Good day, Andrew, as well too. Hopefully you're well. If you have any questions about Brisbane Lions, let us know as well too. So that is really good. Yeah. So you were saying how did you go? Where did you see the game? You said you had it on a delay last night, was it? Or
Yeah, so I'm a coach of a couple of teams, and last night one of my teams had their jersey presentation and season launch, so I had to be there for that and couldn't watch the game live. Unfortunately, I was just sitting there with the phone, getting live score updates, but got home after the game and got to watch it on delay, but watch it on your own couch and analyze it without anyone interrupting me, which is pretty. It's always the way I prefer it, to be honest, but when it gets to final series and stuff, then I just want to watch it with everyone else and get excited and feel the emotions. You know what I mean? So last night was just a quiet one, but a good one to analyse the game in.
definitely. I think the first 3 weeks has pretty much been a carbon copy of our games. The first half we've been a bit asleep, and the second half, like if you tune off in the first half, that's right, because the second half that's when we somehow come back and win. So it's kind of opposite to last year when we sort of were up a bit, but now we're coming back a bit. So which is good
Yeah.
to see. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's been good to
And
see like that they've had the composure to not get panicked by the scoreline pressure. Lots of teams like, and I suppose Brisbane of old saw the scoreline and felt that pressure to perform and rush scores on the board. Whereas as they've proven the last 3 weeks that, or especially even in the final series last year, that there's no need to panic and rush. You've still got, well, the game goes for 120 minutes of play time. There's still at least an hour of just easing your way back into it, working some goals and keeping them, or just changing momentum. So it's been cool to see that this year. I think that the Lions have overall had a bit more composure and, I suppose, wiser heads on their shoulders, just not panicking as much, which has been nice to see.
definitely, and also it's and I was listening to a few of the footy shows this morning as well too, and I sort of agree with them as well too, because like during the finals last year, when we came back from GWS, and also when we did Geelong in the prelim as well too, like it shows that we can come from the back from behind, and sort of shows them that we can do it if we put a mind to it.
Mm.
So it's a good way that they don't get too flustered. Like probably about 5 or 6 years ago, like if we were down by that, we're like, yeah, I'll say, yep, that's over for us. But now, like with our team that we have and the quality players that we've got now, we can actually have a bit of confidence that we can come back from behind. And the question here, by the way, from Andrew as well, thoughts on how we are going without Danaher this year. So how are we going without Danaher?
Yeah, look, I love Danaher. I was actually, a bit emotional when he kicked that last goal in the grand final last year. Just kind of, you could sense that he was going to retire, and you just thought like how good that a guy can finish his career on his own terms, winning a premiership and walking away. So big shoes to fill. Obviously, I look at it and go like he didn't win the Coleman last year or anything, but he spent something like 40% of his game time in the ruck, whereas Jesse Hogan was 100% forward. So to see that Joe Danaher was still kicking that many goals while playing quite a large portion of his games in the ruck, just showed how good he was, and how hard it is to fill that spot. But we've got Sam Day, and I haven't seen much dominance from him, to be honest. But it's a long season, and he's just working his way into a new squad. So in Fags we trust. He's obviously got a plan with Sam Day, and happy to trust him in that. But I think that the Lions should be expecting that we're not going to have the same formula. Joe Danaher is a unique player, and we can't expect someone else to just come in and fill that exact same role. So it's going to be a different look, and I think we've seen that with Zach Bailey being one that's kicking a few more goals already, and we might be playing a little bit more short and a little bit more quick in the forward line. It was good to see Charlie Cameron come back last night and kick that really nice, snapping goal. So I think we'll be probably relying more on the small forwards this year, but I think Sam Day's he's got huge potential, and we've got a couple of those other players that could probably have a crack at that role, and we'll just see which person has the best opportunity for it. I personally wouldn't be opposed to the idea of when Oscar McInerney is back in that Darcy Fort actually has a crack at filling that role instead of Sam Day, in my opinion, but time will tell.
Yeah, exactly. I noticed a bit last night, like you said, Sam Day seemed to be a bit sort of, I suppose maybe might have the wet weather also didn't help either, but he seemed a bit lost. But like you say, may take a bit of time to adjust. And obviously, thoughts with him as well from the week before, how his father passed away too. So he's probably going through a hard time at the moment, especially a new club, new players, new game frame as well too. So I suppose it just takes a bit of time to him adjust and like you say, Bailey and I think last night actually it would have been, I reckon, Bailey, Ashcroft, and McCluggage. I reckon those were the best three last night as well too on ground. Like Bailey seemed to be everywhere. Ashcroft in the second half was good, and McCluggage, not biased there, but he's my favourite, and he was pretty much really good from the start, and those tackles on Bailey Smith was pretty good as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. Hugh McCluggage is probably my favourite as well. My favourite player growing up was Simon Black, and I feel Hugh McCluggage is a right-footed version of Simon. Like he's very similar in style, just on the opposite side of the body. That same sort of approach and same kind of effectiveness with their kick. So and it was. I just think as well when you look at all the games that's been played in say the last 12 months, the games that Brisbane have dominated has been when you look at the stat sheet at the end and you go, every single player has had some form of impact, and they've all done pretty well. The games such as last night and against the Eagles, yeah, they were slow starting and stuff, and Lockie Neal was kept to low numbers. Other players filled that role and got those stats. But for example, last night was a quiet night for Jared Berry, but in the second half, and so he ended up having less than 20 touches for the game, but he was, I think, the leading disposal getter at half time. So it just shows that now we haven't had to rely on every single player to be having an awesome game for us to be still at least in a game. Now we can go, well, we actually can spread this quite, across the field, and a lot of players are taking ownership and filling their role. And then, when it all clicks, they all come together and go, all right, cool, let's kick 6 goals in however many minutes, or 7 goals in 13 minutes, I think it was in the grand final. And so I think that's been exciting. And like, you look at the goal sheet from last night, to see Levi Ashcroft, Will Ashcroft, Bruce, and Charlie, all of them only getting 1 or something goals, but it's just a good even spread. Like, opposition teams don't know who to stop when it comes to kicking goals right now, because everyone's able to do it. So it's just such an exciting year ahead, I think, for the team.
Exactly, because last year we ended up having 9 players with 20 goals or more as well too, like you said, and it allows, like, and also even in the midfield, like with the players that are around that step up, because if Neil gets tagged or if someone else gets tagged, then they can actually feed off and actually step up, and then like you say, with the forward line, like rather than your stock standard, like maybe 1 or 2 forward targets, like you can get all the ones around. Although I think Bruce Reville, after the last night's effort, like he probably might not be subbed for a bit now, because those kicks were crazy good, weren't they?
Yeah, he's definitely one of the more elite kicks. Like, his technique is as smooth as they get. He's been a little bit maybe unfortunate, maybe put too much pressure on himself because he's been the sub in previous times, and might not have been able to give the same level of impact that he would have if he felt comfortable and cozy in his spot. Maybe, I don't know. Don't know the psychology of what's going on there, but last night I'm glad he got that, like, seized his opportunity, and proved that he's a quality and highly skilled player, and I think we're going to see plenty of him this year.
Definitely, and looking forward to this week. We have got Richmond. Obviously, we got Kyle Lohman. I reckon his will be. I kind of surprised they rushed him back. To be honest, I thought they might have taken him off this week, because I know they got Richmond next week and they could at least had 2 weeks off. But it seemed like he re-injured his previous injury, so I'm guessing it looks like he probably won't be playing this week. But looking ahead to Richmond, how do you think we're going to go against Richmond?
Yeah, well, like, it's dangerous to be assuming anything is easy, because, like, what the Eagles game, most people, myself included, would have thought, hey, it's at least a 40-point win or something like that. So don't want to make any easy judgments on them. And what Richmond did against Carlton suggests that they've still got some fire in the belly, which will always put some damage towards teams. But I think, realistically speaking, what we saw last night was that Brisbane didn't panic, and that they were willing to take their time and just ease their way into the game and take control of the game. And I can't remember what the stat was, but it was something like Geelong time between goals after half time was just something ridiculous. It was just such a vast time between score involvements, and I think that's where Brisbane can really do some damage against teams like Richmond, where they might feel panicked and cause turnovers, and Brisbane can just keep, like, even if it's just a goal every 5 minutes for Brisbane, I think Brisbane can really put on a big total. It'll just be whether or not they rock up thinking it's going to be an easy one or not. I think that's the key to this one.
Yeah, because I think with the West Coast, well, the Sydney one obviously we were down, but that was because we didn't train with the cyclone. Then the West Coast game was really hot, and then we
Yeah,
had
and humid,
pretty
yeah.
wet the other night. So it was just like the first 3 weeks have been pretty weather heavy and all that. So that's been an effect on the team as well. And like you say, with Richmond, like, there's no guarantee in football. Like, look at North Melbourne, how they smashed Melbourne last week, and like how it reminds me, that Richmond Carlton game kind of reminded me what we did with the Miracle on Grass back when our team wasn't so good. Like, we were like the
Yeah,
underdogs. We were the bottom 8 side, and Geelong were the top 8 side, and we came from behind to win. And that's what it kind of reminded me like, because Richmond probably had no right to win that game because they had 9 rookies and all that, 9 new players and everything, and then they took it up to Carlton, who were talked up to be like obviously top 8 team and all that. So to be able to do that, like you say, it's very hard to take guarantee or who's going to win because, well, even last year, I'm sure people would have wrote us off when we were 13th, and
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
making our way to the grand final like that. So
I think though that like if Brisbane go with the mindset of we're gonna kill, we're gonna put the foot to the throat kind of mentality and really put a big score on the board, that like it's going to be exciting watch as a Brizzy fan. But I think as well it's important that some of those players that might be low in confidence, someone like Sam Day or maybe Eric Hipwood, if they can kick 3 or 4 themselves just to feel steady. These are the sort of games that you'd think, okay, let's really, whoever's low in confidence, let's really pump them up, give them a chance to kick a few and then set the tone for the rest of the season. So that's what I'd be looking forward to. Hopefully they can do it without getting complacent along the way, So, and yeah, like poor Richmond, like they're battling it out, but at least they've got 3 premierships to show for it, So
definitely, and they've sort of given us a few hidings. That's that probably we've had like about 10 losses in a row against them. They've been one of our hardest teams to play. So in a way, it's kind of good to maybe hopefully return the favour what they've been giving us all the time. So because I know last year when we won by 119 points, like even though I felt sad for the supporters, for the Richmond supporters, but I was like, well, you guys done that to us for years. So I was like, I kind of like made up a little bit, but yeah, it's like you get that where some teams are at different levels of their experience and their level of their playing and all that. So yeah, plus and look at the ladder, like you see Gold Coast, those first 2 games they've been smashing it, and how the ladder's a bit lopsided at the moment. Like percentage will play a part this year because like you see already in the first 3 weeks that there's probably at least about 12 or 13 teams that can make in the top 8, and we just to fit in the top 8, you need to have a percentage as well too.
Yeah, and that's why I think what Brisbane's been able to do is so impressive. Like as in, like you said, those 3 games that we've played, one of them was couldn't train properly. Next one was as human as it comes. Like I personally know the guy who does the fixturing at the AFL, and I'm sure he wasn't solely responsible for choosing a game to be at midday in Brisbane, but in summer or just after summer season. So and then to have the rain against Geelong, like to still be able to pull away from each of those games and just get a win on the board each game is 3-0 to start your season when it could have gone the other way and we could have had some excuses to make up. Whereas like they've snatched the wins, and that's such a good way to set up your season because things will be more predictable now for the rest of the year, and hopefully Brisbane go, well, we've got 3 extra wins that we probably only won because of their experience and their skill at the end of the day, to be honest.
Exactly, and considering like we have pretty much the first 3 games we've basically had no forwards as well too, because especially the Sydney game we lost our forwards as well before the game, and to be able to, like you say, pinch those sort of wins that maybe we should have probably lost as well too, like that will bank up for later in the year, like because if we come across a game that we may think we win but then we lose, it sort of makes up for the ones that we sort of got at the start of the year. So that kind of helps as well too, and also who's been sort of like your sort of like highlight player so far in the first 3 weeks of the year this year? So like, who's in your eyes sort of stepped up?
I've been really impressed with Jasper Fletcher. I think he's just he's looked clean with the footy each time he's had it. He's performed that wing role so well, always finding space and offering options. He doesn't always get used, and that's because the player with the ball's probably under a lot of pressure. But he's just always providing the right option for his teammates. And yeah, like he might only get used 2 out of 10 times, but each time he just seizes the moment. And like the goal he kicked last week, I think it was just as smooth as they come. He's really just feeling. It just looks like he's feeling really comfortable now, and he's starting to really build into his career. So I'm excited to see what he brings for the years to come. And then obviously Will Ashcroft has been amazing to watch just how clean he is with the footy as well. Like he not only does it one touch like Lachie Neale's always done, but he's able to get it away while pressure's all around him, and he still was hitting those targets with those handballs or just those little quick kicks that don't even look like they're intentional, but they kind of go in the general area where someone is. But because he's kicking at someone who's in space, well, he's got three blokes hanging around him, and he does it so quickly and efficiently. It's it's a clearance that's effective for his teammates, and so those two blokes in particular, I think, have really stood up, and they're so young, so it's just such a bright future ahead for them. So those have been the two for me. Yeah. What about yourself, mate? Who have you thought
Yeah,
standing out?
yeah. Yeah, I must say with that Fletcher, those goals he kicked reminds me of the prelim goals he kicked as well in the semi-finals against GWS. That's aim on the run there. I like that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to. It's good to see how Cheese he's still continuing on from his form from like when he got that 3 goals against West Coast. That sort of turned the game last week and got us back into it. And like that goal he kicked against Eagles kind of reminded me of the third quarter goal in the grand final as well too. Like exact same formation, exact same celebration as well too. So that reminded me of that. And so I like how he's done well. And I suppose I kind of like how the team sort of stepped up because Neil this year obviously has been tagged quite heavily the first 2 weeks of the 3 weeks, and he hasn't had much of the ball compared to what he normally has in the past. And like sometimes we've sort of relied on him, but it's good to see like the rest of the team sort of just standing up around him and getting in there and getting the ball. And yes, and also it's interesting to see how like the game plan is going because obviously a few players are a bit in different positions. Like you notice how Jared Berry's been more defence this year, and you also see that Levi just fitting in as well too. So I like it's good to see how he's fitting in, how he got that goal as well too last night as well. So that was actually pretty awesome to see. I thought it was his second goal, but it was because he did kick a goal in the preseason, so I got mixed up. So he
Oh,
did kick,
yeah.
yeah. So his first goal it was actually last night, but he did do a good one in the preseason. I think we played Adelaide that game when we lost that one, but um,
Hmm.
I did see a funny
Preseason
stat.
doesn't matter, mate.
Yeah, that's true. I did see a funny stat though. Adelaide supporters were telling me that whoever they beat the week before, the team won the week after. So Adelaide beat us in the preseason, then we won the week after. So that was a random stat I found, but yeah.
No,
um,
there you go.
yeah. Also, and you also were telling me about how you also work with the AFLW. So tell us a bit about that as well too.
Yeah, so I am probably a little bit of a trader in this scenario. So I'm the WA based recruiter for Essendon in the
Yeah.
AFLW. So yeah, like I'm loud and proud a Brisbane Lions fan, but yeah, I work for the Bombers, and but
That, that
it's
must
more
be
just
that must be hard. When you come across Brisbane Essendon game, what do you do there?
oh yeah, well I'm a footy nerd. I just watch the game for what it is, but yeah, so my role is to watch as much WA talent as possible. So Waffle W players, some amateur league players, and just effectively scouting good players and write reports about them that goes back to the Bombers. And then I'm quite involved with watching the AFLW, keeping an eye on what players are doing well there, and chat with the list manager to work out, well, if this player's coming out of contract, they might fit well in with their squad, and kind of, yeah, just keeping an eye out on what the talent pool is like and who we can potentially snatch up. So it's awesome. Yeah, like for a footy nerd like me, it's a great little gig to have. But yeah, it can be hard when I'm watching the Lions play, but it was good because I'll be watching, for example, like, because I'm the WA based guy. So it would be like when Brisbane last year came to Perth to versus the Eagles in the AFLW, it didn't matter that I was going for the Lions, even though I was writing reports for Essendon. I could just sit there and enjoy that game for what it was, which was a good demolition, which we all all love to see, mate.
Yeah, that was that was at the end of the year, wasn't it? That was the one where we that was quite funny actually because Lions girls have only been to Perth only a couple of times in the last few years, and every time I've missed them because I was in Melbourne the year before, and last year I was actually in Melbourne for the prelim, and I was like, oh, where do I go? Do I go to the prelim or do I go to women's? And I was like, oh, it was hard, but like they just didn't match
You
up
got
at
to
the
go to
right time.
prelim.
Yeah, so I was like,
Prelims, yeah.
I couldn't miss the Geelong game. That was the best game I was at too. Like I went to the Elim which was the Carlton. I went to the prelim and then also the grand final, and I thought the best game was the prelim because it was close, whereas the grand final was a bit one-sided. Even though it was good for us, we won, but it just felt more of a better game the prelim, I think. But
Yeah.
what was I going to say? Yeah, back with the AFLW. So and do you? I suppose when you see all like the Eagles and Freo players, do you sneakily write a few players down so you can work out some trades as well too with Essendon?
Yeah, well, that's it. Like, you got to work out what players would fit into the Essendon list and what ones would play a role. So that's the trick to the game, I suppose. But yeah, you're looking at all the players and you just go, oh, this is what they offer. Is this something that Essendon's lacking? Yeah, I'll put this suggestion forward, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think with the AFLW, it's still in this position with the lists where they've got a lot of still a big range between who's their best player in the list and who's their worst player in the list. And I think the teams that are doing the best are the ones that aren't necessarily filled with A graders, but the gap between the best and their worst isn't as vast. So there's a lot of teams that have got some great players, but because they're so great, you've got then these other players that are so far away. And so I think, for example, Fremantle in the women's, they haven't won one yet, but I think they would have won it if COVID didn't stitch up their season. But they're the list that I reckon is filled with the most just solid B grade players that all just go out there and are grinders and they just do the work and they can all fill a role. And that's the sort of list that I reckon is going to be damaging for a couple of years. Whereas I look at the West Coast Eagles and I say, well, it's quite clear a game plan. If you have some good hustlers in your squad, you say, all right, just take those three players out, because once those three A graders are out, then the next best options are a bunch of C graders as far as I'm concerned. And so, if you've got B graders that can fill those roles, then they're going to play pretty good footy. But, I'm heavily involved with the junior football here in WA for the girls, and it's exciting to see what skills are coming through and what talent's coming through. I reckon 4 or 5 years away, and I reckon it's going to be like, if you're not a genuine footballer who's been brought up playing footy for a few years, it's going to be pretty hard to get a selection. Like, I can't see them just going and picking up netballers in a few years' time. I think that will be ditched unless, I can't see a reason why that an AFL team would keep picking up random netballers when the squads in the under 17s and under 18s at the moment are filled with genuine talent, with football brains that are going to come out there and I think offer a great deal. So it's an exciting future, I think, for the sport.
Definitely. Yeah, I also umpire football and work with WA football as well too, here in WA, and I've worked with a few recruiters as well too, and also a few when I umpire the teams as well too. I do the girls as well, and watching some of the girls, like, man, but I feel like, not to be sound sexist, but I see them playing a lot better than some of the boys I've come across as well too. So like the quality of the women these days are a lot, like you say, a lot more improved and a lot more skills under the belt as well too. And like seeing them just performing, like, man, it's like, man, I wish I was that good. Like, it's crazy how good they are. Like, and so yeah, you definitely got a good crop to come out and come through, and and obviously West is best. As I always say, there's always great players that come from WA, like in the men and the women as well too. So like you got Courtney Hodder, then you've also got like Summer Black and all that. They're all the WA awesome champions as well that come through the squads as well too. So and also whereabouts can we find you? Do you have any social medias or anything like that we can keep track?
Oh, I'm not very active on social media, but my business that I run as a football coach is called 6 Points Coaching, and so that's the Instagram handle that I use. So yeah, you can follow along on that if interested, and yeah, like, so I'll the main thing around that is I offer like one-on-one and small group coaching of female athletes or female footballers. Do a lot of video analysis, so I'll watch their games if they're in the Waffle W, and I can give them feedback on their games from a recruiter's perspective. Or it can be I'll film them with the skills and then analyse their technique and help them refine their technique to take to the next level. So that's what I do. But yeah, sorry, I'm not very active on social media about it all. But yeah.
That's all good. But no, do you have and also I know it's early on, but do you have a prediction where Brisbane may finish on the ladder?
Oh, I think, like to me, it's a Brisbane GWS Grand Final, and I think it's Brisbane by another good old 30 odd points, I reckon. And I think GWS will be good this year, and they've certainly learnt a lot from last year's final series, so it'll be hard to beat. And they beat Brisbane a couple of times throughout last year, but obviously Brisbane won when it mattered. So I think Brisbane are just set themselves so nicely. These first 3 games, there's been just demonstration of how they're not panicking. They're just composed. They're working their way through the games. And if they can continue with that mentality, they're going to be very strong. And I think, Hawthorn are exciting, but I think that they're probably going to have what GWS had the last couple of years. They might make finals, look competitive, but might just bottom out right at the end. And so I think Hawthorn are a few years away yet, but they're looking prime. So that's my top 3 at the moment.
Yeah, because I think Hawthorn are kind of like us when we were in 2019, 2020. I think just starting back in the finals again, and then I reckon like you always got to make the finals first, and then your next step as well too. Like how we did it, we sort of like each year was improved each year, and like you say, we still also have players to come back. We've still got Coleman, we've still got Gardner, we've still got obviously Loman in and out, and
McCarthy
Starcevich
as
still
well.
going to come back. Yeah, McCarthy, I think he's going to aim for the end of the year as well too, because obviously he relapsed his ACL again. So, so although I have a feeling that might be his last year, maybe because.
And then the Big O as well, obviously as well, wasn't playing last night, but
oh yeah, Big O, of course. Yeah, how can I forget Big O? Yeah, it's the biggest guy there. Can't forget him. Yeah. Yeah, so we've got plenty of players to come back, so which is good. So so it should be a good year. But yeah, what we can do, as I say, each week we'll have the Roaring live, and we can have you on again throughout the season as well, and also leading up to the AFL Women's season, we'll definitely have you on again as well too, which would be good. And make sure you follow us, Brisbane Lions WA supporters group as well too on the Facebook there. Also check out 6 Points Coaching as well too. Also check out the AFL Women's Essendon on the side as well too, as well. And no, it's great to have you on board as well too. And you can always watch the replay. If anyone has any questions, send through as well too. Check it all out. And yeah, hopefully we've got a good game against Richmond. And yeah, thanks for joining.
No, cheers, mate. It's an exciting year ahead. And I'll be watching all these podcasts as they come out, mate. So thank you.
Definitely, and yeah, as I say, we've changed from Facebook to YouTube, so hopefully we can get a good old following on the YouTube now too, so that'll be good. And keep up the good work, and go Lions.
That's it, mate. Take it easy, mate. Have a good one.
All right,